Welcome along. My name is David Beard. I'm the CRM principal with Sage Technologies. That's the company behind Sage CRM. I work to support the worldwide education and the promotion of the Sage CRM product. I guess you call me a bit of an evangelist for the product. I'm all about making sure that people understand the value of the product, what it can do for their businesses. And I do that through articulating the story of customers and features through various online activities, Twitter, LinkedIn, and sessions like this. Although based in London, I'm pretty much was on the road, and then 2020 came around. So both my colleague Jeff, who I'll introduce you in a second, and myself are now resigned to just screen work like this. But Jeff, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you very much, David. Like David, I'm based in London, although my focus of operation is Dublin. So I'm really not traveling much. My title is Head of Training Program Development. I have the responsibility for providing technical education to members of the international support teams who help partners and customers ensure successful implementations, of course. And I also provide educational resources to ISVs and partners developing extensions to Sage CRM. And since 2001.
Yes,
2001.
that's right. That's how you say.
Yeah, there we are. 2001. Yeah, I was trying to think where I'm so used to saying 20 something, but 2001.
Yep.
I've been working with the product, and I go back to version 2.85. And I use my understanding of the issues faced by business partners and partners carrying out implementations to really help design the roadmap with David. So to overcome any of the roadblocks that the roadmap is designed to overcome. And I write regularly on Sage CRM development techniques, all on Sage City. So you can see my inner workings. I'm like a mathematician. I show my workings.
Yes, he's always got a board full of explanations. Okay, thanks, Jeff. So in this series, if you're new to them, I'll explain briefly what they're all about. We want you to understand the world of CRM and what it could offer to any business, a business like yours. And we want to give you the opportunity to consider what Sage CRM could do for you, and that would be great. You know, we'd like you to buy our product, of course. But the overall aim really is to make you understand a little bit more about the world of CRM generally. You have the basis of some business automation capability with your Sage accounting software, we believe, and Jeff and I want to share with you how CRM can be added on top of that to help you save time, reduce paperwork, and give you just generally better visibility around the business, and particularly the front office parts of your business, the marketing, the sales, and the service. So last time, we set the scene and talked about the concept in broad terms. What is CRM? And we spoke, both of us, about how we viewed CRM as an approach or a strategy as much as it is a product, about how your business can keep track of interactions with stakeholders, suppliers, staff, competitors, and of course customers as well, in whatever business you're engaged in. And we spoke about how vendors like us, Sage, help design software to help you work with those challenges, those needs, those requirements, to share information, to make sure people are better informed and can keep track of data and processes simply and easily. Jeff.
Yeah, so we covered a little bit about the software last time, and we'll touch on the software every session that we do, but it's important for us to be constantly holding in our mind that when we're talking about CRM, it's not within the context of this learning series, it's not the software that's important, it's the principles, it's the concepts of customer relationship management. So we're going to be trying to avoid technical terms like cloud and such like. We're going to focus, if we're going to focus on issues, they'll be the general business challenges rather than the technical challenges. So it's the practical how do I do's rather than the details of how those are overcome. So our conversation here, it might seem a little bit rambling at times, but there is some logic in the way in which we're talking about this. We're going to help you think about your CRM strategy and products and the way in which you direct your business towards success. Everyone should have their success criteria that they're working to. And in particular, we'll be thinking about the customer experience that is a result of the front of house activity. So that's people who are your team who are responsible for marketing, sales and service. In a small company, there is no such thing as not doing these activities. They just happen to be done by very often the same person, sales and marketing, rather than a marketer and a salesperson. So whatever line of business that you're in, the objective that we're all aiming for here is to help you think about and then focus on the areas that matter for you and how you're going to improve that customer experience and within the business environment.
Okay. Good explanation. Good summary there. So this session is called About Sage CRM, a story of an evolution from a Dublin startup that Jeff and I were both part of into this global brand that is Sage CRM. So Jeff's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting on this. He's got more of a retentive memory for this than I have. How did it all come about, Mr. Richards?
Retentive memory? You're a fraud, David, because you made me go away and do the homework on where we had been. David's actually been with the software for longer than I have. So he's been with it 6 months longer than I have. But now it all came about really. It really goes back to 1998. I think that's when the company was founded. It was then known, the original developing company was called eWare, based in Dublin. You had 3 extraordinary people who had this vision for creating software that ran in a browser, that would do anything, deploy anywhere, connect to anything. And these guys were Ivan McDonald, Alan Wiley, and Greg Casey. Absolutely phenomenal people. And they took us on. I joined the company as it was forming its vision, as it was getting its backing from companies like Computer Associates, big major stakeholder there. It had the strapline, eWare, the wireless and internet eCRM software. Everything had an E in front of it then, I think, as well. That was the origin of email. Everything. You stuck an E in front of everything, just as much as you stick an I in front of everything nowadays. And right from the beginning, it was very much a worldwide focus software. It attracted, as I said, phenomenal backing. I think 2000, in about the September of the 2000, eWare licensed its sales and marketing modules, CRM modules, to Computer Associates International. So it rolled out globally straight away there. Actively marketed by the ACPAC subsidiary, which was then a subsidiary of Computer Associates. And if you're Canadian, you will know who ACPAC are. If you're North American, you will know who ACPAC are. So we were known as, in most of the world, as ACPAC eCRM. And it was in 2002 that it was formally acquired by ACPAC. So we were formally acquired by it's still owned as a subsidiary of Computer Associates. Then in 2004, that's when Sage acquired ACPAC as a whole and added all of the software that it had bought. It was really buying the accounting software. Sage CRM had a really or eWare as it was, had a really exciting role within this idea of working with warehousing software, billing payments software, payment, FPOS and all things like that, all integrating, because Sage CRM can talk to just about anything that you want it to talk to. And so he eventually acquired by Sage, who wanted all of those good businesses, and Sage had already acquired.
Funny time as well, wasn't it? Because that was also because one of our biggest competitors then was SalesLogix, and that was part of the sales group. Sage
well, yes, it was. Yeah, absolutely. But Sage had already gobbled up SalesLogix and Act in 2001. So they had already acquired that. It is important to understand Sage CRM has this ability to connect to anything. Just Yeah, well, you can connect to anything given n levels of abstraction, but genuinely, Sage CRM is designed to be able to connect to things. And 2008 saw a very significant development in in an API called SData, Sage Data, which was a standardization of the way in which data should be shared backwards and forwards. And interestingly, by a few years later, in 2013, Sage had done the assessment to keep Sage CRM and dispose of the other two CRM or contact management systems. So he had disposed of both Sage Act and Sales Logics in 2013. Sales Logics has gone off to Infor and as well.
So I want to take you back to some of those early releases. So you talked about being with it since 2.85 or something like that. What did they look like back then? Do you remember?
Oh, well, I do remember. It was very. It was looking back on it. It was software like my mum used to make. It was very comforting to look at. It was represented that wave of early websites, and so it had a design quality of something like MySpace, or it was marbles and marbled wallpaper, and it very etched icons and things like that. What was striking about it, though, is that I'd come from enterprise. I'd had a background. I'd been the European training manager for, or technical trainer, I should say, for a big software, Kana, very much used for email processing and customer experience, and to get a page going. I'd been training down in Italy in a bank in Italy. I had spent a week essentially getting them to write this single page, which was the page to accept customer details and then have it saved safely into the database, obeying all of the rules.
A week.
But my former manager had brought me in. He had jumped ship first, and he brought me into eWare, and I spent 2 weeks learning the software. But the amazing, I couldn't get over the fact that the same work that I had done for that Italian bank, using this software originally to get the whole presentation layer working with the application layer, the business rules, and then into the database, I accomplished in 5 lines of code with eWare. It was astonishing. I couldn't believe it. This whole revolutionary thing within the software was just absolutely mad, and it's done because of a very nerdy little thing, which I might talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, you've reminded me, actually, if I can butt in for a second, that I was similarly introduced to the company around the same time as Jeff said, and I had previously been working for a software company, but I was building their internal and external web presences. And it was in the days when you used to hand crank HTML. And I was using a product called Cold Fusion, which was one of the earliest database-driven renderings of web pages. And so when I saw the CRM product, which is essentially the same sort of concept, I just went, that's amazing. So both of us kind of went, wow, look how clever this thing is. And so quickly you can render pages and generate forms and all sorts, right?
It was transformatory when we saw it. It's I'll come on to. I do want to talk about the nerdy bit in a moment.
Okay. I was going to ask you about some customers. So do you remember? Talk to me about some of these early customers that you worked on.
Yes, and it was so manic. The early years were absolutely manic. I had 2 weeks, 2 weeks of learning the product before I was sent away to Vancouver to actually deliver the training to the ACPAC teams as they were rolling out. As I said, right from the beginning, the really the company was international, so it was selling all over, and that meant that translations were fundamental to it. Interoperability was spot on, and so it's a very strong, easily localized and internationalized product. Now, that I can't tell you what industry we worked in best, because there was no verticalization of the product. And cynically, I'd say that is down to the fact that our sales guys would sell to anyone. But actually, I think it was because it was. We used to joke that the software was a rapid application development environment with a customer relationship module already built, and we
that
had,
really was the heart of the product, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's right. We
had
had
do what you needed to do.
Yeah, the early customers were banks. I worked on a couple of banks, postal organizations, telephony, ISPs even, as well as mobile companies. There were retail companies who were taking it, as I said, integrating with FPOS systems and doing a lot of the second rank selling, so sales management and also purchasing management. It was used for events management. Really sophisticated finance companies were taking it on. Technology companies. There were international technology companies who are in the object request brokering business, so Corba Technologies. And in terms of funky stuff, I had to work with. Do you remember there were? I don't know. I can't recall if they're still. Some of the really early companies are still with us. So thinking of. Aircom is still with us. I think they're North American customers. So generational computing, that is. That's fantastic. But we had early customers who needed to do a lot of rejuvenation work. We talked about rejuvenation right at the offset, but this is taking something like a VT220 screen. So on a DEC digital type green screens, and needing to bring those up into a web interface.
That's right. I can remember one, which was a car rental company, which, their back office thing was a workhorse. It was a mainframe system, and it did all the transactional things you expect a booking system to do. But there's no room for that booking system to do customer care. So they overlaid eWare as the customer care engine and did all the scraping back and forward of data about the rental agreement and all the data that was with it back and forward, right? Yeah.
And that's actually spot on. That was all done through Telnet screen scraping and then bringing the screen scraped information up into the CRM screens.
They don't make them like that anymore, do they?
No, they don't make them like that. Well, actually, it's not too difficult. It's something like, essentially, you're using internet technology to be able to connect to another machine. It's not much different from doing a screen scrape, from processing an XML message, or through even nowadays, if it's a little bit more easily structured with a JSON message. It's only just got a little bit better, and you just stick a preprocessor on to be able to make it easier. And we in terms of technology, Sage CRM can work with MQ series to be able to work with the idea of, if you've got sophisticated messaging systems. We even experimented with Swift, I think, at one stage, the banking application, to be able to do that. So it's and can I get nerdy yet? Can I get nerdy?
Oh, go on then. I feel like I have no choice here. Anyway, you're talking about the evolution of the product. You're going to say where it came from and where it's going to. Is that what you want to do?
Well, in terms of where it's coming from, I think we have to understand where it's coming from in terms of its fundamental architecture. Now, it is a product that does show in aspects some of its age, because of some bits of it are old, but old, if it works, is fine. We've also got the whole Java malarkey and moderns, everything from you'd expect from a very, very responsive set of JavaScripting libraries to be able to control the interface. So the interface is modern as well. So everything from Kendo grids to whatever you want. And Sage has got a very good approach to be able to rejuvenate and keep the interface fresh.
Yeah.
Now, but the secret sauce, if you like, for Sage CRM, which is the bit that I want to get nerdy about, is right at the heart of it is the concept of metadata. Now, metadata is here you have to imagine it as a sort of middle layer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a set of definitions which is held separately from the code. So the code in a program is a set of instructions that explains how to do stuff, like how to connect to a database, how to retrieve data from a table, and then how to send that data to the web page. So the code is doing the how. In a lot of systems, it also does the what. But what we've done is moved all the what variable information into metadata. So what database you need to connect to is explained in there. How the what connections that you need, what table you should get the data from, what fields you should get, and what fields should be displayed where on the screen. So all of the how is provided by the code, the what is provided by the metadata, and because we've separated it, it is fantastically adaptable. You can add more information into metadata, and that increases the capability of Sage CRM to be able to connect to any back office system, to be able to bring that data into the browser. That's why it was used so often in rejuvenation projects, to be able to say, I can connect anything. If I can define it as metadata, I will bring it up onto the screen. And it's essentially, we could have taken the approach to develop an accounting system inside Sage CRM because it has that ability to work with the data definitions inside the system. And it is phenomenal that you can simply define things in and get. I used to have a party trick, David, which when I was doing a lot more live demonstrations, where somebody would say, "Oh, I've got this system that I need to connect to," and I'd say, "Oh, you have this database. This is the database. Here it is on this server. I'll just enter in the connection string into the database, and which table are you interested in? The AR, the accounts receivable customer. You on the let's connect to the accounts receivable customer from that accounting system, and I've put the definition in here, and I'll just explain how that should be presented on screen, and here in
5 minutes later,
5 minutes."
Done.
5 minutes is an exaggeration, but certainly within 15 minutes, you could have a working search and list screen to be able to retrieve data from an external system. And a little bit more work would then be able to do the to make use that you could update, insert, and delete the data as you wanted, according to that other systems business rules as well. So you'd be able to maintain all system integrity as well. And we've maintained through the years modern API, modern interface as well. So the user experience has been increasingly looked at and maintained as a good experience. We are making sure that we can connect to all of the Sage systems that we need to. And there is no shortage. In 2021 R1, which has just been released, I think we've added another 30% and increased the RESTful API by another 30% by adding new services and that people can use. And we've got plans for further increases into the RESTful APIs for the next release as well. It just doesn't stop.
It just goes on and on. All right. So that's a lovely segue into the future of the product then. We've talked before on this and other sessions about how Sage CRM is an important product to the group, servicing as it does a very lucrative and continuing to grow market. Gartner talk about a 12% growth. The last year we've seen has been even higher than that, and I'm sure it's been a lot for every CRM vendor. And our positioning is such that we're using the CRM story to go back to our accounting base of customers around the globe, many, many tens of thousands of customers that don't have any CRM, certainly from us. And if they do, it's pretty limited. It's basic contact management. And then to tell the story as we opened today, about, well, what could CRM be in your business and what features could you use and when? And the idea is to bring up the whole center of the universe story for every business. You know, you have your sales and marketing teams using one system, they're interrogating finance information and so on and so forth. And so it offers customers a great ability to extend their investment and get more from their investment in Sage and their products. It offers our reseller partners a great way of going back to their customers and saying, we can help you further. Here are some other tools we think you should investigate for data capture and process design. And all in all, it's all about the fluidity of data for these customers and the stickiness, making sure that they themselves can do a better job of looking after their own customers because they have a system that shows them every evolution of a customer's journey, from a prospect to a first sale to a warranty break fix story, all in the same product, right? So that's sort of the snapshot summary of why we continue to position the product the way we do and where we're taking it. Jeff, you and I sort of did a double down on strategy and thinking about product back in 2019, right? And we spent some time, didn't we?
We did, but it's important to say is it's not a single fire task. You know, you don't do it once. This is something that we come back to twice a year. We have our regular chats with business partners around the world. We're very welcome. We'd love to be able to chat to any customers directly who want to express their views on the direction of the product and ask questions about technologies that should be adopted or actually features that should be included. And this is something that we are attacking all the time. Like, we are doing some hard thinking about where we should be going with the product.
Yeah, and it's all about creating this narrative for this future, as Jeff says. You know, we try to inform, and I know people do say this because it's what you're supposed to say, but we really do talk to a lot of stakeholders. I think our average week, we're spending the best part of 2 days in a typical work week talking with resellers, talking with operating companies, talking with customers, conversing online through forums and things like that about what people are trying to do, what's missing, and what we can make the product do in the future for them. So Jeff spoke earlier about this idea of rejuvenation, and that's a very important thing for us. The first release within our takeover of the product direction and commercial and technical direction was 2019 R1, right? Yeah.
2019 R1. Even then, I can't say that we didn't do much of the argument. It was essentially inherited by us. We had started off in the July of 2018, and the program, essentially the development for that had already started.
Yeah. But getting on board that train, to throw in a mixed analogy for the hell of it, we're all about providing reassurance and rejuvenation, and is making a difference. You know, we've spoken in our past sessions how product sales have continued to climb in the last couple of years, and that runs alongside the analyst forecast. So we know we're tracking in the right direction. And 2020 was a real year where we did quite a lot of things behind the scenes, but setting the scene for 21, 22 and beyond with this rolling roadmap. And we've now reached the point, haven't we, Jeff, where we're ready to release 2021 R1 to the market. It's a significant release. You know, it's delivered more than just incremental improvements and bug fixes. It's really executed well on priorities of, as you were saying earlier, integration points, user experience improvements, getting rid of some nasty little things that just wound people up, and so on, right? So we've really made a big step forward, I think.
We have. We've already started. Essentially, what's happened is that Sage, depending on when you watch this, we've already handed over the software to the operating companies, and they're just making sure that their go-to-market procedures are followed, and then they'll be releasing into their customer base and partner base. We've already started work on Sprint Zero, looking at some of the features that didn't make the cut for this release. So we're already started work on 2021 R2. Your voice is important to be able to change the direction, but one of the things, because I don't want to get too bogged down into product in these chats. What I'd hope that you'll take away from this is two things, really. First is that Sage is with you when you want to, however fast you want to go towards the cloud. We're with you all the way. And a second thing that I'd like you to take away is that really that we are we're all about helping you understand the benefits that connected systems can bring to a business. And so where you're looking to derive a business advantage from taking your accounting data and being able to use that across the business, this is the conversation that you need to have with Sage to be able to understand how customer relationships, if they're improved, will pay dividends to allow you to sell more, to be able to provide your customers with a better experience, ensure loyalty, to build your brand, to do all of the things that you need to do, whatever your industry.
And even if you've got gnarly old systems, we could probably help you there too.
If you've got a really old system, we can connect to anything.
So I hope that's been useful. It's a bit of a history there of the brand, where it started, how the product looked, where we went with it, and so on, and how we ended up being this global brand name. So that's the end of this session. I hope that's been insightful for you. Jeff and I had a bit of fun reminiscing on some of the old sites and old.
It's
old
no
books.
longer marble.
But in conclusion, as we always like to say, Sage CRM has helped thousands, tens of thousands of businesses around the world to acquire, retain, and delight customers, as Jeff was saying earlier, and hopefully support their business ambitions. These customers save time, they increase productivity, they get much better insight, not just from the back office, but right across their business. So Jeff, I'll leave it to you to say something useful like, we're very affordable, aren't we?
We are very affordable. Probably in terms of price point, think of us as essentially a module to the accounting system that you're working with. It is a very low cost of total ownership when it comes to looking at the lifespan, whether you're working with, however you're looking at the subscription that you're dealing with. You've got the peace of mind knowing that that you'd be one of 17,000 small to medium-sized businesses working with Sage CRM, working on Sage, and we know these businesses. We know how businesses operate,
and how the product can be deployed in all sorts of ways. Good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Richards. That's all from us. There's a lot more reading about customers, by the way, on www.sagecrm.com, which will give you local stories as well, and how customers have benefited from the product. So that's all from us now. It's goodbye from me, and I think it's goodbye from him as well.
It is just goodbye from me, and thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Goodbye for now.